A lot of people think true love has to be intense, that it should feel like a fire burning inside. But what if I told you that most of the time, that overwhelming passion is actually a red flag? What many call soulmate energy can be nothing more than an emotional trap. A bond so strong it feels impossible to break, yet it's just a cycle of pain disguised as love. And the scariest part? Most people don't even realize they're stuck in it, because the line between love and destruction is way thinner than we imagine. Topic 1. The cycle of idealization and devaluation at first. Everything feels magical. The person puts you on a pedestal, showers you with compliments, makes you believe you finally found someone who truly gets you. That rush of attention feels like destiny. But here's the catch. That honeymoon phase is just the bait. Soon enough, the mask slips. Little criticisms turn into harsh attacks, the affection starts fading, and suddenly nothing you do seems good enough. The constant switch between intense love and cold rejection keeps your emotions on a roller coaster. Your brain gets hooked on the highs and lows, craving the dopamine and stress like it's a drug. And that's the cruel part. You start mistaking intensity for love. The back and forth of being adored and then torn down creates an emotional addiction that's hard to shake. This is how so many people get trapped in destructive relationships. But there's another sign, even sneakier, that tightens the chains. Extreme emotional dependence. Topic 2. Extreme emotional dependence. One of the clearest signs of a trauma bond is feeling like you literally can live without the other person. Even after countless moments of hurt, you keep coming back. It feels like your entire identity is glued to their presence. And here's the truth. That dependency doesn't come from love, but from manipulation. They create a cycle where you only feel complete when you're with them. Those rare moments of affection act like rewards, keeping you hooked. It's eerily similar to drug addiction. The brain learns to chase little scraps of pleasure to survive long stretches of pain. Over time, you start justifying toxic behavior just so you won't lose the connection. The dependency runs so deep that you ignore your own boundaries, accept humiliation, and even convince yourself you don't deserve better. That's the power of a trauma bond, turning suffering into something that feels like need. And here's where it gets even darker. What looks like devotion to the relationship is often just control in disguise. Starting with social isolation. Topic 3. Social isolation, another huge red flag, is when you start drifting away from the people you love. It usually doesn't happen all at once, but through subtle manipulation. They'll say things like, "Your family just doesn't understand us," or "Your friends are jealous." Slowly, you start believing it and cut back on seeing your support system. This isn't coincidence. It's strategy. The more isolated you are, the more dependent you become. Without friends or family giving you perspective, it's easier to believe you should just keep quiet and put up with it. The toxic bond thrives when outside voices are shut out. You start feeling guilty for even reaching out to others. Talking to friends feels like betrayal, like you're somehow disloyal. That guilt traps you even further, creating an invisible cage around your life. And once isolation is in place, another weapon comes into play. Guilt and self-blame. Topic 4. Guilt and self-sabotage in a trauma bond. Guilt becomes the go-to weapon. You start feeling responsible for their moods, their reactions, even their mistakes. If something goes wrong, the story is always the same. It's your fault. Over time, you internalize it and begin blaming yourself for things you didn't even do. This eats away at your self-esteem. You start believing you're not good enough, that you have to work harder, or that you need to earn the scraps of affection you get. That twisted mindset makes you sabotage yourself. Settling for crumbs and thinking asking for respect is too much. Self-sabotage also shows up when you think about leaving. Guilt kicks in and convinces you that you won't find anyone better, or that you're being ungrateful for not appreciating the good moments. And just like that, the toxic cycle stays alive. But guilt is just the beginning. The next sign hits even harder. The roller coaster of emotional highs and lows. Topic 5. Emotional highs and lows. A trauma bond almost always runs on a loop. Moments of intense affection, followed by periods of conflict and pain. That constant back and forth keeps you walking on eggshells, never knowing if you'll get love or criticism. Those highs and lows trigger chemicals in your brain, dopamine and cortisol that strengthen the dependency. The affection after a fight feels even sweeter, like a reward for the suffering. It creates an emotional addiction, not so different from gambling. The trap is that you start mistaking this cycle for passion. The adrenaline of instability feels like true love, when in reality, it's just emotional manipulation. This dynamic makes you cling tighter to the relationship, even when you know it's breaking you. And to keep this cycle alive, there's always one powerful ingredient: empty promises of change. Topic 6. Empty promises of change. One of the clearest signs of a trauma bond is the promise that things will be different. They swear they'll change, that they'll try harder, that this time will be better. And because you want it so badly, you believe it. That hope becomes the glue that keeps you stuck. Those promises work like a trap. Even after disappointment, the thought that maybe one day things will improve makes you keep pouring your time, energy, and love into something that's already toxic. It's like betting on the same losing card over and over. The cruel twist. Between those promises, things usually get worse. And that pushes you back into the cycle of highs and lows, tightening the bond even more. They don't need to actually change. The words alone are enough to keep you around. And when you realize change is never coming, another fear takes over. The fear of being alone. It's topic 7. Fear of being alone. The trauma bond grows stronger when the fear of loneliness kicks in. Deep down, you start to believe that even with all the pain, being in that relationship is better than being on your own. It creates a mental prison where solitude feels unbearable. This fear often comes from old insecurities, low self-esteem, or past abandonment. That's why the toxic relationship starts to feel like the only option for love and companionship, even though it's tearing you apart. You convince yourself no one else will love you or accept you the way they do. The problem is that this fear distorts reality. How being alone, even for a while, can actually be healing, a chance to rebuild your identity. But the trauma bond makes solitude look like a threat. And so you cling even tighter to the very thing that hurts you. Which brings us to one of the most painful signs of all, the struggle to actually break free. Topic 8. Struggling to break free. One of the hardest parts of a trauma bond is feeling trapped. Even when you know the relationship is toxic, walking away feels impossible. It's like standing in quicksand. The more you fight, the deeper you sink. That's not weakness. It's the result of emotional conditioning. Your heart and mind get stuck in a tug-of-war. Logic screams, leave. But your emotions pull you back with the thought that maybe this time will be different. That back and forth drains you, yet fuels a false hope that keeps the cycle alive. And even when you finally try to walk away, loneliness and nostalgia hit hard. You miss even the things that hurt you, because your brain has learned to link pain with love. That's the grip of a trauma bond, turning freedom into something that feels scarier than the cage itself. Conclusion, if you've made it this far. You already know that recognizing the signs is the first step toward breaking the cycle and taking back your freedom. The real question is, how long are you going to keep mistaking pain for love? The power to change is in your hands, but it only works if you take action. So are you going to keep repeating the same patterns? Or are you ready to rewrite your story? If this hit home for you, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notifications, and keep learning how to transform your life.